Hey kids. Well, it's a beautiful August day. Feels like to be about 23 to 25 degrees. Feels like it's going to get warmer. I have a band gig this afternoon, late in the evening. But before that, we're going to work on some bicycles. So we just finished tuning up my Kona WO fat bike. This bike is light as a feather, like really light, which is great because the tires create some drag. I've got special gearing that I like. People don't know this, but you can buy gear cassettes and make your own gear combinations. Same with the front crank. So you can basically set up your own speed gearing and be totally individual to yourself and against the store-bought models, which I always found were never to my liking. I'm going to try and show this here. Actually, we'll go outside. It's a lot easier. Okay, so this is a gear cassette. As you can see, all the gears are on it. You can buy individual gears. They all lock in to a spline that's on the actual wheel itself. You can see the locking or the grooves. You don't have to stick to one single type of gear cassette. You can get bigger ones with more teeth on them, smaller, and that'll affect your speed, your hill climbing ability. As you can tell, it's well lubricated. But now on this one, some of the teeth are broken and stretched, and mainly in the lower gears. It's where a lot of torque is. So they have to be replaced. Just going to put this down here for a sec. These are added gears that I added to my taste in gearing. So this is an 11 tooth gear. This is the last one on the cassette for me. With mountain bikes, most of them are designed for off-road, so the gearing is suited to that, but I ride on the highway too. So these two gears are different. And these are my two highway gears. So this is why I can catch 10 speeds, and not 10 speeds, but race bikes with my mountain bike. This allows me to basically get all my speed with just two gears. The rest of these are designed for hill climbing and all that fun stuff. So just let me wipe my hands here quick. As you can see, the back wheel is all done. I've got a new gear cassette on here. Right there. Everything's cleaned. The backing dust shield, and that's all clean too. People don't understand. I've seen people like smashing these, trying to get these off. It's a simple tool. And I don't know if I got it here or not. This is the tool that takes it off. You can see the grooves on it. And you take this off because this is a quick release rim, so the axle is actually hollow. So you take this off, push out the quick release axle. This goes in the hole. This goes into the locking rings. As you can see, there's some locking ring in here. You go in there and you go backwards like this way, counterclockwise, undoes the lock, take that off. The gear cassette slides off a special mounting axle itself, and it's really easy to get off if you use a right tool. And you can buy these at any bike shop. You can buy them online. And the same with the crank, getting your pedals off down here. There's a tool for that. Looks almost similar. And that's kind of two functions. And this threads into the body of the bike, or the housing on the bike that's welded in place. Or not the housing, but the pedal housing. And this pushes against the internals of it, and as you tighten, it pulls the pedal crank off and the pedals. So anyways, that's the housing. I'm trying to do this without making the bike fall. So this is the housing that's welded on the bike, holding the bearings, and this is the axle for the, or basically the pedal crank. And they're notched too. Everything's got notches on it for strength. Not like the old bikes. Well, that one's a full-size one-piece crank, but some of them used to have these pins. Were the worst design ever. Hated those when I was a kid. Actually, we'll bring out one of the cranks here. Don't mind the mess. This is my parts box here. So this is the crank that I just took off, and you can see the notches. I don't know if the camera's too close or not. You can see the notches through, and threads in to hold it in place. And then you go this way and crank it, and it turns the other smaller piece and pushes off the pedal axle. Pretty easy. So now the advantage of these bikes nowadays, and for the last number of years obviously, if you buy a good crank setup, the gears are interchangeable. So just like the gear cassette where I can put my own gear combinations on, I can do the same thing for this. Okay, so there we go. That is my middle gear. You can see this bike has 3 sets. Okay, I am waiting right now for the small set and the big one, but I can reuse this pedal arm. That's what it's designed for. There's nothing wrong with this pedal arm setup. I paid good bucks for it years ago, and all I have to do is change the gears, and it's just a simple Allen key release. I can order specifics for the gear combinations. You can count the gears and write it down like well, this is this is my back one here, my formula. So the biggest gear is 32 teeth, then into a 26, a 21, 18, 16, 14, 12. So, and then down to the 11, which these two last ones, a 12 and 11 are highway gears. So anyways, I have a formula for this one too. What happens is the gears, teeth I should say, they start to stretch and go pointy, as you can see. Try and get this on some white so you can see it. They've gone really pointy, where they kind of should be, have a bit more of a nub to them. So when they start to wear pointy like this, it's definitely time to change them. As the back gear cassette, a couple of teeth broke, so I knew it was time to replace that. This is the chain, and the thing with chains is once they start to flop side to side, I'm trying to get this out so I can show you. Once they start to flop side to side like this, get that much flex, they're done. Now, here's a surprise. This bike I've had for 18 years. And I grease it and oil it all the time. So when I bought the bike, I built it custom. I ordered all specific parts to my liking. I bought the frame on its own from a company called Iron Horse. And they were just starting to get into top bikes at the time. And I really liked the frame design, so I bought that frame and built the bike from the frame up with parts that I wanted. So anyways, this bike has been running the same gears, same pedals, and gear cassette for 17 of those 18 years. For the first year, the combination I had on it is what I thought I wanted, because I wanted it to be strictly off-road, but I love the bike so much after the first year I wanted to do it on the street also. So here's the deal. I still have the original crank, the original chain, and the original gear cassette for the bike that I first ordered. But the second year, up until this day, I was running a totally different package. That whole second package has lasted me 17 years. And it just failed this year, which just goes to tell you, you can maintain your bike with oil, cleaning, and have it last for years. You don't have to bring your bike in every year to get tuned up if you do the basics. Just clean the chain off with a wire brush, minimal oil on it, just enough to make it nice. And don't saturate it too much, because that eventually picks up dirt. But yeah, so I'm just changing these now. It's been a great bike, great, the best bike I've ever owned in my entire life, and I've owned a lot of bikes, still own a lot of bikes. So even when I went to get my parts, they were like, really, that's the combination, the gear combination you want? Because now all the bikes have bigger wheels. These are 26-inch wheels, which were the norm for many years, but now they're into 27, 28, 29-inch rims. I'm not into that. I'll stick with the 26. I love this bike. So yeah, so I had to order the gear rings. They call them gear rings, and or chain rings, gear rings. As you can tell, they're not cheap. My middle one is 35 bucks. All bike parts went up after COVID. It's crazy. And the other ones are 30 bucks also. So 100 bucks just in gear rings. Okay. So as you can see, the teeth are a little bit wider. They've gone pointy on some of them. So putting a new chain on stretch gears like this will just destroy the chain. So you got to do all of them. You got to do the back cassette, the chain, and the crank. So then we get down to brake pads. Most of my bikes have Hayes brakes right here, Hayes. So these are Hayes pads. Yeah, this is a disc brake bike, and I don't know if you can see it, but those are Hayes brakes. Most amazing bike brakes I've ever used in my life. I love them. The fat bike out there, I've got hydraulic ones, Hayes. These are cable. The ones on that bike, the Hayes bike right now, are Shimano. The Hayes brakes are not on the bike right now. So anyways, these brake pads are magnetic. It's little magnets in the actual brake calipers. Which side is the brake caliper? You take the caliper off its holding bracket. And you stick the little pad in there. I'm trying to find the loose pad. I thought I had it around here somewhere. Let's see here. There we go. Now, that's a brake pad out of my bike, this white one, and it's still got pad left on this one, but the other side was getting too close for comfort. And again, these brake pads lasted 18 years. These are the original brake pads that came with this bike. This is what I ordered, this is what I put on it, and 18 years out of these pads. And I ride my bike every day, this white bike, every day except in the winter. Whereas I ride that one in the winter, and I have one other winter one. So, great brakes, Hayes brakes. Hard to get up in Canada, but you can order them up. It's no problem. So, I got mine through Belarusian. The replacement ones, I hope they got the right combo of materials. And if they don't, then I'll be taking them back. Most of these pads have labels, but these have been in so long that it looks like it's a little bit worn off and you can't see them. They're just usually like a decal on there, so you can't really read it. But still, same shape. They're Hayes brakes. It should be good. High performance compound. This bike will stop. It'll almost put you over the handlebar. It stops so quick. So we've got that. So this is brand new chain. And my bike has 8 gears spread on the back, 3 on the front. So it's a 24 speed. And the chain is according to that. So it jumps across for length. And most of these have a locking pin. It's hard to see it, but it's right there. I don't know if you can see that, but which is fantastic. And right there, they separate it. So that's how you join your chain together. If the chain's a bit too long or too short, like I have specifics for the length, I'll just match it up with my old one, and then put the connector link in after I cut the chain to length. Now it's possible, you know, this is the perfect length, but yeah. And so I have a tool to take out the links. When I say cut it, I just mean I have a tool that'll push out the main rivet, and you can take off a link at a time. So, and I forget what the cost of that was. There's another 40 bucks. Okay, then we got brand new pedals. Now the advantage of these pedals, they're repairable. They're also waterproof. There's a gasket where the bearing is, so if you're riding in the rain and the mud, you're golden. The bearings will stay sealed, and you won't get dirt and crap in. When I first bought my bike, I was up tapped out money wise, so I use these. These are Wellgo, I think they are. Yeah, Wellgo pedals. These are common pedals. I love these pedals. They tell you they're disposable, but you can repair them. But they are not waterproof. Okay, so if you're stuck in a heavy rainstorm like I was the other day, water gets in and it just starts pushing grime inside. So I'm going to rebuild these eventually. I'll just put them in my parts box. But I said, well, you know what, just time restriction. I'm going to try some new ones. Now these are metal, and I really love these, and I'm going with these because, as you can tell, I have similar ones on my fat bike, and they got me through the winter great. They have these steel grips for your shoes. Right here you can see the steel grips, and you can remove them, you can put other ones on, but they're usually good enough. And the price of those, you're looking at, they're $75 before tax. So overhauling a bike is not exactly cheap. So then I ran into, let's see here, where's that tire? So this tire, this was a brand new tire at the start of summer, and this was brand new at the start of summer, and I started seeing the tire actually fall apart. You can see the patterns here, but the treads are actually breaking off. They're not wearing off. I've never seen that before, ever, in a bike tire. You can see, like, here's tread here, but it's worn here. Now this is lower than the actual center tread. So why this is breaking off is beyond me. But let me tell you, I was not impressed with this, because mainly the cost of it, and definitely disappointed in the actual longevity of its life, because it's only been on the bike for a short time, and like right here, this is toast. This is almost through the threads. So, and most of this riding was on asphalt. So anyways, I won't be buying that anymore. Now if you notice, I have a street tire in the front and I have a street tire in the back now. I do that combination. I go street tires, I do full knobby like this, or I go street tire and a knobby in the back. Depends on where I'm riding most. So I'm going to do some highway riding. So we put a brand new Kenda tire on. Now these are directional. You can see how the tread V's. So you want this going forward rotation like this, so it digs into the rain and pushes it out to the side. Some people just put the tires on randomly and don't look at the direction. That is incorrect. And we cleaned up the rim, cleaned up the bearings. The rims are aluminum, lightweight. The front tire is still got some miles left on it, but you can see it's also a directional tread. It V's forward. You want the arrow or the V shape going forward, over top, down into the ground. So the bike needs a good cleaning, and that's what we're kind of doing. Now we're just going to put this over here. A little bit about this bike here. This is a full suspension bike. These shocks here, these are ordered specially by me. You take these caps off, there's actually air valves. You actually can put air in these, so they're air shocks, fully adjustable. You don't need a lot of pressure. Like, I wouldn't use a compressor to fill them up. You just use a hand pump, and you can regulate the travel, which is fantastic because I do a lot of off-road stuff and jumping in that. So there's lots of travel. I can have quite a bit of travel. So I forgot the cost of those back in the day, but they were not cheap. And this shock here is also fully adjustable. There's a valve right here, so you can control how much the bike bounces. Single bounce, double bounce, or a lot of real spongy feel. Sometimes the spongy feel is great when you're doing rough road. Yeah, so this whole basket moves up and down, and here is the swivel bracket. This is where everything pivots. Now these wear out. I've not changed these, but I have greased them, but they're starting to get play, so the bracket, rather than just going up and down, starts to get a little bit of a cockeyed feel to it. It's just starting. Now the problem is this company is no longer, and some of these companies, this is their secret formula here, so you don't know if I can get the bearings or not. So I'm going to take them out and repack them, but I am going to try and order some and hope for the best. Sometimes you can get them from secondary parts companies, and that's my goal. And then we have your gear changing devices. This one has to be adjusted a little bit. The back derailleur has wheels in it, little gear wheels, 2 of them right here. There's one there and one down here. Now this one, I take them apart. There's just no bearings or anything in them. They're a plastic nylon kind of gear, and they just help guide the chain through the gear cassette. This is spring loaded, and like if I let go of this, it goes back into its shape. So that helps keep tension on the chain. Now this one I've cleaned off, but when I tightened it, it seems to be pinching the gear, so that is not good. I'm going to double check why that is happening. So I may need another gear there, but I don't think so. I think it's just something is not lined up right. And they're only held in with a single screw, but the back one here on this particular bike has one screw to hold it, but it's also got an offset pin. So, and it might not just be sitting in the pin right. So I've never had a problem with it before, but it is possible I smacked it doing some off-road stuff and bent something. So I'm going to double check that. It's cleaned up now because I usually have a lot of grease oil on this. And yeah, so that is basically the rundown of what I'm doing to this bike. The front brakes are good, even though I ordered brakes for it. And you've got your quick release. This is for shifting. There's your brakes, and right now there's nothing in there for resistance on them because the disc isn't in there. I put extra wide handlebars on, which are fantastic. I will never go to narrow bar bikes again. It's just a beautiful balance with long, wide bars. And I got the ram horns on, which are great for going uphill. Keeps your wrists from buckling and getting pinched and twisted. So that's basically this bike. This bike is old. You can tell it needs a good cleaning. Once all the parts are in and everything's installed, we're going to buff it up pretty good. Somewhere down the road, we'll probably give it a paint job. We'll probably change the color. I like to kind of do a blend of 3 colors. I can airbrush all that. So that's the scoop on this bike. This bike is just a wonderful bike. It's just a wonderful bike. I forget what I paid for it, but I think $1,800 back almost 20 years ago with all the parts, and I had to put it together. So I've changed seats on it. I'm going to be going through my 3rd seat because this one's going to be replaced. The book carriage, I love these book carriages. No brackets down to interfere. You can't really do that anyways with this moving back end. So I love these carriages. It's a big frame, so it stretches out quite a bit. Same with the fat bike. I'll never go back to short, small frames, medium frames ever again. I'm always going to use the big frames. They're just so much easier to handle and just more comfortable to ride. And that's about it. I'll give you a close-up of this disc brake setup. I'll show you here. Yeah. So anyways, the brake pads go in here in the slot underneath, and they're magnet. As soon as you put them in, the magnets grab them and pull them into place. Then you got this little bar, and you can just pull them out. So you ask, well, how do you adjust those? Well, Hayes Brakes has a pretty slick setup. Let's see here if I can get the right one. Right here. This little disc here, if I can do it without. There. So when you put the new pads in, you back this out a little bit. And what that does is it takes one of the 2 pads and gives you space, moves the pad over and gives you space to put the 2 pads in it, and then enough room to get your wheel disc, which is this. This is your brake disc, just like a car. So this has to fit in that caliper along the thickness of the 2 pads, right? So, and they're like this. So once you turn that little cup, it rotates outwards, so it kind of leaves a space. Oops, sorry. So I'll do that again. So that little cup that I just backed off basically allows this brake inwards so you can slide it over. When you do any cars, you would use a C-clamp sometimes on a front caliper. So you put a C-clamp in to move the piston back. It's basically what you're doing. That's a piston adjuster there. So these aren't hydraulic brakes, these are mechanical with a cable. So that's an advantage on this bike. On the fat bike, it's hydraulic, just like a motorcycle and a car. And sometimes you have to bleed the brakes. And yeah, not exactly fun with the hydraulic brakes. Oops, sorry. Yeah, not exactly fun. I've had a lot of problems with hydraulic brakes on that bike, that Kona bike. In fact, the first brake system on it just sucked. So, plus they want a fortune for brake fluid, and you know what? The first brakes were leaking so bad, I just gave up on them and started using baby oil in it. And you know what? Baby oil worked just as good. A lot of guys use baby oil in their hydraulic brakes. So, and they still work in the winter. So the haze brakes are going to go on it. I bought some used ones to replace the brand new ones that failed. The warranty, they just took forever. It was like, I think it was 6 months, and I still didn't get replacements. So I said, screw it. So I bought some used ones online, threw them on there, and they work better. Not great like these haze. So I have haze. I'm just waiting for one more part to come in. And since COVID, all the bike parts have been either behind order or doubling in price. It's just crazy. So I'm waiting for a part, and then once the haze is complete, I will be laughing, because haze brakes are the best, in my opinion. So that's it. The scoop on the bike. Hope you enjoyed that.